And actually, if you do too much something, it might actually reverse on you.
Mm.
I know actually several biohackers who gone hardcore into this, like doing like hardcore workouts, a lot of ice baths every day, a lot of sauna,
Mm.
and eventually their nervous system burning up so that they can't sleep for half a year.
Cheers. Bulletproof.
Yeah, it has all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, what's inside?
It's ginger, cardamom, almond, milk, cacao,
Ginger, almond milk, cacao.
and single origin Guatemalan coffee.
Ooh, the good one. You brought it?
I
Or
got it. I got it from elsewhere in Thailand from a roastery where I was
okay.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, such a honor to sit here with you, Teemu, and to have one of your bulletproof coffees here. And nice to meet you here in Thailand as well.
My pleasure. Yeah.
How come that you come from normally you're from Finland, so maybe that's not like a proper climate for you. How it's come that you come
Oh,
to
this is the
Colombia?
perfect climate right now.
Ah, really? Okay, why that?
Well, in Finland it's a long winter, so it
Darkness.
yeah, right now it's minus 22 degrees Celsius. I love ice baths, but I can also have ice baths here.
Yeah.
But what I like about being here right now is the fact that you have actually something called the circadian rhythm.
Hmm.
So you actually do align with nature much more easily because in Finland the sun really doesn't rise. It just
Hmm.
goes a little bit above the horizon, goes right back in.
Mm.
And of course, it affects mood and energy levels and all that.
Yeah.
So here I feel like work life balance is much better. So I'm not really on a vacation. I'm just working remotely from here.
Okay, good. Yeah. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about you, because I think in the biohacking scene and the health scene, you're like really famous. Yeah, I just read it from Red Bull, one of the three most famous biohackers on the worldwide. So yeah, I think a lot of biohackers know your name, know your work, but yeah, maybe for them who sees you the first time, who are you?
Mm. I wrote the Biohacker's Handbook. Biohacker's Handbook is uh, written together with me and Dr. Olli Sovijärvi, who is a very well-known functional doctor in Finland, and Jaakko Halmetoja, who is a nutritionist. And we started writing that book in 2012.
Hmm.
So that's already over 10 years ago. Uh, we started publishing content about biohacking in 20, 2012, 2013 onwards. We organized the first biohacking related meetup in Finland in 2013 and first Biohacker Summit in 2014. And we have been organizing these summits since annually, one or two events per year.
Mhm.
And this year, 2024, we will have our 10th anniversary, 2nd and 3rd of July in Helsinki, Finland. So we go back to where we came from, but we have organized this event in Amsterdam, in Canada, in Toronto, in London, in UK, in Stockholm, Sweden, and also Tallinn, Estonia. And then this year we also do the first event in Asia. So that will be in Japan, in Tokyo, in
Mhm.
October. But I've been like through my work publishing content about this field. I've been uh, talking about optimizing sleep, exercise, nutrition, mind, work, nervous system, and mindset for over a decade now.
Wow.
I give 100 talks a year on average. During the pandemic, it was maybe 50. But
That's good.
by the way, we organized the only biking conference in 2020 in the world.
Ah, wait, did it?
We did it in Finland, and
Okay.
it was basically in between the waves of of whatever was going on, and
Yeah.
we had the event so that Finland went into lockdown one day after the event. So it was like
Phew, meant to be.
lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, over a decade in health optimization, biohacking, I've seen the trends. What are the latest trends? What people are focusing on right now? It's longevity, anti-aging supplements, all of that. It has been, of course, part of it for a long time, but there has been different phases: blue light blocking, glasses, red light panels, um, different diets, ketogenic diets, for example, you name it. We can talk about these different things for sure if you like to a little bit more in detail.
Mm-hmm.
The books that we have published, there is actually multiple ones. The Biohacker's Handbook is the English hardcover book, over 500 pages, 1,500 references, hundreds of illustrations, which is kind of the Bible or the search manual for anyone interested in biohacking.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now finalizing our next book. It's called The Resilient Being. And right now the manuscript is over 1,000 pages
Mm.
and over 4,500 references, mainly meta studies published in the last few years. And um, so to me, what I've seen is increased interest in preventive healthcare, um, health optimization, which over 10 years ago was kind of fringe. Even on longevity, the idea that you could extend human lifespan or health span, healthy years in your life, was a little bit fringe. But right now it's going mainstream,
Mm.
um, mainly because of the research that has come out that makes it a lot more promising, and also podcasters,
Mm.
marketers offering solutions, new compounds. And I would say one thing that is quite trendy right now is psychedelics as well,
Mm-hmm.
for therapy. We did in 2018, we hosted uh, from Imperial College of London, which is one of the hotspots of psychedelic research for depression, PTSD, and so on. We had Carhart Harris sharing about his research, and a few years later, now it's kind of a booming industry,
Mm.
legalization or decriminalization
Mm-hmm.
going around the world.
Mm.
I also heard actually that there is, uh, not just heard, I read that Thailand, which has decriminalized uh, cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
is actually planning to do the same with psilocybin
Yeah, I
mushrooms.
heard the same. Mm.
But it might be directly for therapeutic use.
Mm. Wow.
Um, and it was a funny article from, I think it was like one of the government bodies for border control, or whoever is like the local drug enforcement agency,
Yeah.
collaborating with local universities to heal the mental problems of Thai people. This is why
Mm.
they went into it. But this would have not been possible without the promising research coming out.
Yeah.
Like, so you always need, you have always the pioneers, of course, but in the next wave you get some of the proof. And one thing about biohacking is that it's often driven by pioneers. But if you look at the history of something like bodybuilding,
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger said that the stuff that they were taking in the 70s, 80s was proven only later in 90s or
Mm.
2000s. So often these people who are on the forefronts, they adopt emerging technologies, emerging practices, emerging, in this case, compounds
Mm.
that don't yet have wide range human clinical trials, and they test things on themselves. And you sometimes you get casualties in
Mm.
this, and so adverse reactions and all that because these pioneers are testing things on themselves.
Mm.
I believe there is a lot of things that people are taking right now that might show up later,
Yeah.
to be extremely beneficial for extending health span or lifespan, or the opposite, that they might be um, like adverse reactions.
Mm-hmm.
A good example is metformin, which is a very popular anti-aging longevity drug that affects energy metabolism, blood sugar regulation. Of course, like insulin resistance is one of the things with aging that is inevitable at some point, and you can slow that process down by eating diets that don't spike your blood sugar so much, or taking compounds that help you to stabilize blood sugar, and metformin does help with that. But it also affects muscle mass,
Mm-hmm.
so muscle wasting, and you might feel just absolutely fine on it for a while, but 10, 20 years later, muscle mass might be something that you actually would need for longevity. Because if we take insulin resistance, it first shows up in large muscles. You have insulin resistance in can be measured on a single muscle before it manifests on organs. So having enough muscle mass in your life would be beneficial. So there is a lot of these kind of paradoxes that what do you optimize for? Like just a simple example, if you optimize body composition, muscle mass, that influences growth hormone, and growth hormone is of course linked then to higher risk of cancer. So then the question about longevity is like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to maximize your gains in the short term with the expense of the long term, or do you want to go long term and not necessarily being so energetic or having so much muscle mass?
So,
Cognitive enhancers is another topic, nootropics, very popular among biohackers. I don't think there is a free lunch. So if you take some stimulants on a continuous basis, they tend to increase heart rate, resting heart rate, and resting heart rate is one of the indicators of longevity. And you want to keep that as low as possible, and you want to have high enough VO2 max and to be able to operate at high heart rate levels occasionally. But to have anything that keeps it chronically elevated might not be in your favor if cardiac health is in your interest long term. So, anyway, what I want to say here is that it's a complex topic. People are doing a lot of things to perform better, faster, stronger. And in a decade, I've come to the conclusion, if I would like summarize what my message is, and how I may be different from the other influencers in the space who advocate perhaps high performance, that it's not really about high performance, but it's more about resilience,
mm-hmm.
that you become hard to kill,
Yeah.
and to become hard to kill, you you need to be able to trigger the pathways that makes your organism stronger, but not at the expense of short term, uh, not at the expense of long term benefits. So another thing that I see, it's more about balance, equilibrium. It's more about harmony um, on so many different levels, on the nervous system, metabolic level, and all that, that you don't burn the candle from both ends. And I see the danger in a lot of these practices that give you more energy, that then you use that energy to do more of the stuff that got you sick in the first place.
Good point.
So that's another topic that I speak a lot,
Yeah,
is the psychology of why we are even interested in performing better. Is it to mask something that happened to you in the past, is it a coping mechanism
Mm.
to the issues that led to the health problems in the first place, let's say overworking, um, or have you learned your lesson? And that is more less of a physical thing. It's more of a mental, spiritual path.
I would love to dive deep into this topic because we also have a lot of high achievers and high performance entrepreneurs, therapists, coaches, and trainers who are listening to this right now. And I think, yeah, a lot of them, they do biohacking, some kinds of biohacking techniques, supplements, and stuff. And what I hear is when you're talking, it's they need to be more clear about their why. So why do they do it? Because yeah, you can biohack your whole life, your whole day. You can jump into the ice bath. You can make a lot of breath work and take a lot of supplements. But as you said, maybe it goes in the wrong direction when we are not like really clear about our why and about our path.
Yeah, for sure. I I think there is a lot of wounded healers in this space. So if you take any of these celebrity influencers in this space, they usually have some kind of wounding story, how they were overweight, um, depressed, maybe in the middle of medical crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and how some biohacking techniques, it could be a diet, could be anything, meditation, exercise, sleeping enough, optimizing their circadian rhythms, whatever, led to the healing. And then they have this emotional connection to that healing process. And then suddenly, this thing that was first meant to be a reach for help, like just to do something to get out of the situation,
Mm.
once you are fixed, you don't understand when to stop. So you keep on going, like health optimization becomes to you a lifestyle, which
Mm-hmm.
is great. I mean, it's one of the healthiest lifestyles to have. Um, but then it becomes almost an obsession of controlling the diet, the environment, supplementation, all of that.
Forget to life to live life.
Yeah, and in a sense, like if you look at clinically, that is a sign of orthorexia.
Mm-hmm.
So you are obsessed and scared of getting sick again. So you try to avoid it at all costs, which is great, but there is a balance to things.
Mm.
And what I see also, I mean, there is nothing wrong about it, but often people, when they get into a health practice and they see positive results, they become almost fundamentalists. They believe this is the answer. So then you have influencers, someone for someone it's breath work. So for someone it is ketogenic diet. For someone it is wearables. For someone
Mm.
it is certain supplements, let's say nootropics.
Yeah.
And then that becomes an identity. So they associate their identity with that practice.
Mm.
So they even become a breathwork coach, or they become a ketogenic um, thought leader. And it's very hard then to get out of it because it's part of your identity and you don't necessarily even see it. So, why is that a problem? Now, in the biking community, it's very common to criticize vegans and veganism. Um, that but if you really think about it, these people, when they first got into veganism, they actually felt really great and they kept on going, and they have blind spots to their own practice.
Yeah,
and i
that's me.
and I could totally point out issues with it,
Mm.
but I can also point the same issues out in going hardcore keto long term,
Mm.
like what your issues might be. So it's more about finding the balance in many of these practices. And the question is like, really is like, have you transformed? Have you learned your lesson? Because healing can also become an addiction. You can be like um, fully addicted to going from one healing modality to another. Just like people go from one therapy to another, and they they don't recognize when they are healed, or they don't even get healed. They don't actually want to be healed because they have constantly issues they want to fix. And what I feel is under there is fear, fear of death, and not accepting the eventual demise of your being physically. And that, I think, is why the longevity is such a big topic now. So you have like venture capitalists in their 40s, late almost 50s, getting into crazy supplementation protocols, diets, wanting to be young again. And what I feel is driving that is fear of death and not accepting the fact that you're aging, to the point where there's the belief system that aging is a disease that can be healed. And I'm all for it. Like, I think it's very important that we focus on figuring out the mechanisms of aging. There is now 12 hallmarks of aging. There used to be 9, now there's 12. They just added things like gut dysbiosis, which biohackers have spoken a lot. Like, for example, gut is the source of a lot of issues. And I mean, mitochondrial dysfunction, all of these have been there, trendy topics among biohackers. So it's really good to be aware of the mechanisms of aging and to potentially slow down or even reverse some conditions. But under there, I feel there is a lot of fear of becoming old and unable to do what you do. And ideally, of course, you do all these things so that you can enjoy life to its fullest, so that your body and mind is functional as long as possible and you die boots on. Like, on average, people spend 13% of their lifespan in a suboptimal condition with a degenerative disease. So you can offset that to the future with some of these practices. But there's this thing called the Gaussian distribution, and it's the same with dose response curves and all that, that you get diminished returns the more you do something. And actually, if you do too much something, it might actually reverse on you. I know actually several biohackers who gone hardcore into this, like doing like hardcore workouts, a lot of ice baths every day, a lot of sauna, and eventually their nervous system burning up so that they can't sleep for half a year, and you know, being forced to abandon the things that they thought were healthy. So ice baths are awesome and great. From research, you know, you get most of the benefits already by doing it 2 or 3 times a week, 2 minutes at a time. You don't need to do 10-minute ice baths, 15-minute ice baths. It's not a sport. I personally have been going to sauna for, I'm from Finland, and
Yeah,
sauna
for
is part
sure.
of our culture. And right now I can say that because I have 2 saunas, one is regular traditional Finnish sauna, one is infrared sauna. I've been going to sauna every single day for a decade. Not here, but at home.
Yeah.
And I'm 41 now. I look quite young. I do a lot of biohacks. I look younger than 10 years ago, but I attribute a lot of my own health journey to doing heat alteration on a regular basis, and eating one meal a day, and doing moderate calorie restriction and intermittent fasting maybe once a week. So there's definitely routines and protocols that would probably benefit a lot of people. But I'm not afraid of occasional things that might be not so healthy, in a sense. So there's this fundamentalist undercurrent that you need to avoid some things, like you need to avoid gluten, you need to sleep every night 7 to 8 hours, you have to have a perfect sleep score, 100%. And if you get 99% one night, like you're a failure. No,
Yeah.
actually, there is this mechanism which we know in exercise, for example, it is where you have positive compensatory feedback to it's called supercompensation. So if you exercise too often, your capacity for the next workout diminishes. If you have too much break between sets, you will be more at the baseline. But if you time it correctly, your next set you will have better capacity, better performance from a nervous system standpoint. So you need to put yourself in a stressful situation to a degree that you trigger the metabolic and biochemical pathways that are beneficial for longevity, but not too much and not too little. So for me, it really comes back to the Gaussian curve of figuring out what is the optimal performance. And in terms of nervous system and stress, you have distress, which is negative stress, and you have eustress, which is positive stress. And the difference between distress and eustress is a fine line in sand. So you want to stress your organism a little bit, but not too much. And that's the optimal. And usually you find that what I would describe as some kind of harmony or balance or equilibrium in your organism. It's the same with your blood work. You can try to optimize to have perfect blood work all the time, but when your body gets sick, for example, it will, for example, increase cholesterol levels because cholesterol is a carrier. It's a temporary change. In healthcare, when we see that we want to artificially bring it down, but it's a natural process of the body to get back to a state of homeostasis. But of course, there's times when your body is not so smart, so you get dysregulation of many different systems, and that's when you might need an intervention. It can be lifestyle, dietary, it can be a drug-based intervention to help the body to find the balance again. But the body is full of compensatory systems that strive for balance, and like the way I see like having perfect blood work, never being stressed, never being challenged, is a sign of weakness actually in the end because you are not ready when things go south. So when you when you train at extreme boundaries, you are preparing your organism to be capable of dealing with that the next time you meet the same adversary. So I have a lot of respect for things coming from the East, like if you think of Zen Buddhist monk or some kind of Shaolin Kung Fu master, they practice extremes, extreme relaxation, and extreme activation of sympathetic nervous system and physical feats. But if you spend most of your time in extreme physical feats and you don't balance it out, it's like your cup is too full, you know? So you need to empty your cup first. So there's a lot of philosophy that comes from the East, which is about yin and yang, about ebb and flow, about um, if you think of Zen gardens, for example, it's not just abundance; it's you have enough empty space in it as well. So, like that's kind of the mindset that I've been like more gravitating towards. If you can kind of get my philosophy a little bit here.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, really interesting to listen to you, my friend. And I resonate with a lot of what you think about and what you tell the audience right now. I would be happy to like go a little bit backwards to your past, if you like,
Sure.
because we also spoke about the why, and I would like to know, and I think the audience too, why you do what you do. Is there like like a specific point where you said, so now I want to go into biohacking and health optimization, or is there a personal story behind it?
Well, I've been pioneering a lot of different fields, so this is not the first field.
Okay.
From my when I turned 16, I founded my first company.
16.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and I became a teacher in high school when I was 17, and yeah, I was visiting lecturer already in university when I was 19. So I was kind of a child prodigy.
Hmm.
But in the field of education, I became an expert on future learning, for which I received the Leonardo Award under the patronage of European Union
From Leonardo da
and,
Vinci.
and UNESCO. It's not from Leonardo da Vinci, but
Ah,
it's
okay.
it's kind of it comes from Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is what I'm asking.
So and that was for the work that I did in the field of education. I received that in 2016,
Mm.
and I was championing and pioneering future learning, social technology, social media in education, and I was a thought leader globally in what learning might look like, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Then I moved into social technology, social media, and the whole Web 2.0 social media boom. I started my blog in 2003. I was first users on Twitter, YouTube, you name it,
Hmm.
and I actually carried a video camera and I did film myself when they didn't have SSD memory, but they had like this tape
Yeah, I
thing.
got it. Yeah.
Okay, so it was
Hmm.
not so common, and I put my lectures online and people started inviting me in different places. That's how I became a professional speaker.
Hmm.
First on future of education and learning, but then on the future of marketing and um, also the way how companies or organizations relate to their audiences. So the whole social media stuff, and I built first social media strategies for companies like Nokia, cities, governments, big corporations. And so I was a pioneer in using social technology, social media in organizations. That got me into um, organizational management and leadership. So I'm also a management consultant. I've been into many different boardrooms talking about future of management and leadership and work, focusing on knowledge work and collaborative work. So I became a well-known expert on that field. And from there on, that's when I guess like my demand was so high and my ability to take care of myself was not at the level it is today, that I found myself with stress-related illness, and in 2011, and that was the segue into biohacking. Um, so I first got like some fleeting pain that was going away when I ate something,
Hmm.
but then it became chronic, and then I was diagnosed with an ulcer, like which was not of bacterial source, but it was basically just chronic stress and not sleeping enough and all that. So I got some medication for it, which masked the symptoms but didn't treat the root
Yeah.
cause. So after 9 months suffering from it and eating medication, I wanted to reverse that. So what I did, I basically because I don't trust any gurus.
Mm.
I learned that being a guru myself
Yeah.
on other fields.
Yeah.
Like, don't trust gurus because they start to believe their own bullshit at some point.
Hmm.
Don't trust any of the health influence. Don't trust Dave Asprey, Ben Greenfield. Don't trust me.
Mm.
Do your own research. Like, everyone has some kind of bias or vested interest in something, so you have to like figure things out for yourself. Um, you have to find the guru in you,
Yeah. Yeah.
in a sense. So I went into PubMed, which is a medical database of peer-reviewed health articles, and I started from my issue, and I started mapping out a protocol for healing myself based on all the studies I read, and eventually I had like 500 or so references, And I had created this anti-inflammatory diet, stress management protocol, gut healing protocol, and uh, I also at that time, that was 2012. So you have to understand wearables, for example, or biomedical testing, or genetic testing, or gut testing. All of these were very early. Like there was no commercial products available,
Mm.
really. Um, you had to like kind of find it. So I traveled to another country and went directly to the lab to ask for the tests
Mm.
because the doctor in my country wouldn't like send me to the lab to do the test I wanted. So I paid directly to the labs to do it. For wearables, I ordered emerging technologies coming from startups. I did first gut tests, first get genetic tests. Um, so I got very early into health optimization with data. I measured hundreds of biomarkers, and based on that, I detected my issues. I addressed the issues with lifestyle, dietary interventions, and after 6 months, 5 6 months, like my symptoms were gone, and then I noticed that also my allergies went away that I had all my life.
Mm.
Um, I also noticed higher energy levels. Um, so the elimination diet that I had devised to fix my gut issues is actually a ketogenic diet.
Hmm.
Um, and
For short term or for
I did that for 6 months.
6 months? Okay.
And so pretty much I noticed the benefits of dietary and lifestyle changes that took me to a level where I was never before that moment. And so what I then did, I invited people to do come to my office,
Mm.
and I would share what I did. The first group has like 40 people. There was the founders of Oring.
Hmm.
There was founders of nutritional products that are very similar to what Brian Johnson is right now doing with Blueprint. So they like there was one group that was working on a perfect nutritional product based on real organic bioorganic compounds that were tested to be what the human body needs every single day. There was founders of sleep tracking technologies. Like there was a lot of there's founders of people who built the HRV
Hmm.
stuff. So
Yeah.
that was pretty pioneering group. And there was also Dr. Olli Soviari, who became my co-author of the Biohacker's Handbook. And so I invited him that we both are interested in this kind of stuff. I actually got to know him by going to his clinic first. And then that became a lifestyle for 10 years, organizing events, all of that. So I was kind of scratching my own itch, fixing my own problems, and that became a lifestyle
Mm.
journey for me. And
Okay.
so that's been this decade now.
Mm.
But because I went already not one but 2 decades of being an expert on very different fields and noticing all kinds of experts and gurus, like I have this like innate skepticism on anyone who claims to have the answers, and people tend to try to find simple solutions to complex problems, and social media is the breeding ground for that kind of behavior.
Mm.
So you don't become anyone by being an expert on everything. You
Mm.
you need to focus on being extreme on one thing, and that will lead for you to get the following. So social media is full of experts who are like focusing on one thing, and like that's just biased to me. Like
Yes.
there is like no single solution.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Mm.
So um and like that's kind of like part of the reason why in the last few years I've been speaking about things like ego. So Biohacker Summit in 2022 in Amsterdam, the topic was hack the ego,
Mm.
and I described what's wrong and fucked up with all of these health influencers online, and um, so there is a very strong narcissistic undercurrent of people claiming in a very authoritative manner that they know the answers
Mm.
on podcasts, on whatever. Um, and it's a very American way
Mm.
of boasting that you know better than others,
Yeah.
like what is killing you, what is not, and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. And it tends to resonate with people's insecurities. So people tend to follow those individuals who seem to know better.
Mm.
Um, and I'm just saying that those are all false prophets.
Yeah, we also have the problems in Germany right now with the coaching scene, because when you say, just saying that you're coaching or that you do coaching, you're already like, a bad person, because there are so many influencers and coaches out there who are not really coaching, who are not really asking. For me, coaching is like it's like a magic, with asking and with going deeper and deeper in the emotions of the people, and then try to help them to find their answers inside themselves. And then there are a lot of people like just making advices, maybe you can do that, maybe you do ice, but maybe you do this kind of nutrition. Let's see what helps. And then, yeah, a lot of people, they make like really bad experiences with that. And in
Hmm.
Germany, so it's really, really fast happening that something goes like coaching is bad, you know?
Yeah,
And yeah, and that's why I
it's a
totally resonate
I
with
mean
you.
it's an unregulated industry,
Yeah.
and health industry is full of coaches who are not doctors. They
Yeah.
are sometimes they are chiropractic
Hmm.
who are in US. You can call yourself doctor when you're a chiropractic, but that's it. You are not a doctor.
Hmm.
Like you didn't go to medical school.
Yeah.
You learned about human physiology, and suddenly you're an expert on peptides. Just as an example.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who abuse these systems to gain credentials. Um, you can become a life coach. Like there is no, you can call yourself a life coach. You don't like. There's no certification. Like being a doctor is actually something that you can't fake that easily unless
Hmm.
you're a chiropractic. So or in US, or you buy yourself in to something. So I mean, I'm a self-learned, um, self-educated, self-taught person. I have never let education interfere with my learning. So, um, like, I don't have credentials, traditional sense, but I've been editing um, medical literature every single day for over a decade, working with doctors, scientists, researchers who work with me. So I know something, but I don't claim that any of my material is something that you need to 100% trust. Um, do your own research.
Yeah.
That's why I don't give blueprints. I don't give diets. I just share what I learn and
Hmm.
mechanisms, and you devise your healing. I don't do coaching.
Hmm.
People ask for me for that, but I don't really do that. But I can give talks, lectures, and talk about these issues. I organize retreats, but I don't claim to heal anyone.
Hmm.
There is a lot of people who claim that they can heal you,
Yeah.
and the problem with now this comes from my management consultation like background and experience. If you take the coaching relationship, the role of a consultant is to make themselves irrelevant.
Hmm.
If you make yourself as someone who the other person is depending on for solutions, you are not a good coach or a consultant.
Hmm.
But a lot of people in this industry are making their followers dependent on them for advice and guidance. They're not trying to figure out how these people can own their own problem and fix it and learn how to fix it, but are offering solutions. And those solutions, you don't need to investigate the details because I did all this research for you. So I give you exactly, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and people are simple. This is what they often, they're lazy. They don't want to learn, they want to pay for this kind of stuff.
But maybe in the future, ChatGPT can do that for you.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is through which you educate yourself to actually understand your body, like no one else will ever be as interested in your health than you. No one, not even a doctor. So you need to become an expert of your own body, your own biology, physiology issues, and learning how to fix them. Like these people can intermediately help you, and they can maybe help you save time and guide you towards something. But to claim that they are the guru for you on this path is basically being a charlatan. But so the role of a coach would be to make themselves irrelevant to the client. That is the measure of how good you are in being a coach or a consultant to someone on their issues. And the patient doctor relationship, or the one who is solving and the one who has an issue, it's a trust relationship where the patient, in a sense, needs to trust your diagnosis, your suggestions for intervention, but you need to walk the talk yourself. You need to implement it. If there is no trust in that relationship, or the patient is not doing what someone is saying, who is an expert, of course, you end up in issues. But like we are right now on one of those hotspots of coaches. Like Kopangan is full of like I would describe this based on like being here now over a month. My impression is that this is an open air mental hospital. This is like full of broken people who have issues, and I congratulate all of them to work on themselves. There's no judgment in a sense. You can be whatever you want. You can have whatever mask you want. And that unfortunately creates an environment where abuse is rampant. So there's people who don't really know what they are doing, who are offering healing protocols, treatments, all kinds of stuff, and they carry a facade. They invent almost like a story about themselves, and they're offering that.
Marketing.
Yeah, it's a marketing, and there's an endless offering of workshops every single day, coaches, like basically, if we imagine that this place is full of broken people, and it's kind of like you're in a mental asylum where the inmates are in control, who are prescribing the treatments. Um, it's quite a funny environment because it's quite safe. It's kind of like a closed island.
Yeah.
No judgment. If you go a little bit crazy, which I see a lot of people are a bit crazy here,
Yeah.
like you have an endless supply of treatments available from different experts, where the healing is relying on you believing that the treatment works. And whatever works, placebo is awesome. Um, so but I like it because it supports my lifestyle. I can have ice bath every day. I can have
Oh,
breath
yeah.
work every day. I can do meditation every
Like
day.
3 years ago, it was not like that.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
there is like whatever coach you want, you will find it here. But you have to be very careful who you work with,
Yeah,
who
for sure.
you rely on, because this island also has a history of abuse, especially sexual abuse on
Yeah.
the tantra yoga side. So I'm a bit critical of a lot of this new age stuff, which is remixing ancient practices with new stuff and westernizing things, and like forgetting where it came from.
Yeah.
Even cacao ceremonies. Did you know that Mayans didn't have cacao ceremonies?
Okay, Mayans,
Mayans didn't.
Aztecs have?
They didn't have cacao ceremonies.
Okay, that's new to me.
It's a Western invention,
Okay.
uh, originating from Lake Atitlan in Guatemala,
I
where
was there.
where cacao is coming from. So it was Western people who revived the ancient use of cacao beans, because cacao actually was a strong part of Mayan culture.
Mhm.
Cacao was used as payment.
Yeah.
Cacao was used in ceremonies, but it was not the ceremony.
Mhm.
So cacao was part of offerings
Mm.
in ceremonies. It was also consumed in ceremonies, but the ceremonies were spiritual, and
Sacrificing.
it was based on sacrifice. It was based on ritual.
Mhm.
Today's cacao ceremony doesn't focus on ritual. It focuses on the pharmacological effects of cacao, heart opening, it focuses on communal things like connecting with other people,
Yeah.
eye gazing,
Yeah.
um, music. It integrates a lot of new age stuff,
Mhm.
anything from singing om to
Breath work and
breathwork.
yeah.
None of that was part of Mayan culture.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Usually in a Mayan ceremony, it was smaller. There was a fire, not always, but in a very central part. Here, the cacao is the central part.
Mm.
Um, Ecstatic dance might be part of it. Um, like people often forget, that where things come from.
Mm.
Even tantra that is practiced on this island, there's very little real original tantra.
Yeah.
In real tantra, there is no partner.
Mhm.
You don't have a partner.
Yeah, yeah.
You have only partner when you are at a really high level, where um, you're maybe even a little bit disassociated from your sexual uh, desires. You can control it.
Mhm.
So then you can practice tantra with someone else. And there's definitely no, in like original tantra, there is no men who are tantra gurus.
Mm.
The woman is the guru who activates the man. It's the Shakti who activates the Shiva,
Mhm.
not the other way around. So if there's like someone who is gonna activate your, root chakra,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
his lingam, doing some
Understand.
yoni massage,
Over here. Yeah.
that is, my honest opinion is men should never teach tantra.
Okay.
But um, I'm a bit cynical,
Yeah.
as you can maybe hear from the whole conversation. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very, uh, uh, like, how would I say? Um, I'm very precise where
Mhm.
things come from.
Mhm.
I appreciate tradition, thousands of years of tradition, where it actually comes from. Um, I appreciate traditions and knowledge that is passed on from one generation to another,
Yeah, like lineage.
that there is um, knowledge there, wisdom, tacit knowledge, which is hidden, not even written down, oral traditions that is present in that culture. If you take shamanism, there's a lot of gringo shamans here and everywhere else nowadays. I went to the Amazon. I spent time with the Shivibo Konibo Indians 17 years ago. There
Mhm.
was no, there's maybe one retreat center.
Yeah.
There was mainly not even led by Westerners. There was no websites. There was no marketing. There was no Western translators.
Mhm.
Um, there was some, like, the beginnings of ethnotourism, yes, but there was no Joe Rogan raving on podcast how everyone should smoke DMT. Um, to even know about DMT, you had to really be interested in very uh, rare, esoteric, and I would say like not so common
Mm.
knowledge and practices to even know about it. Um, but now it's turned into a consumer product, and
Mhm.
there is Western guys who are uh, administering you bufo 5 MeO
5
DMT,
MUTP. Yeah.
and I think it's dangerous.
Mm.
Not from not that these guys are like damaging you; they can totally do that. Um, they probably don't know what they're doing.
Mm.
If the entities are real, they probably don't have no idea how to deal with it if you get one with just 2 years of experience,
Mm.
you know, not growing up, seeing when you were not even able to speak a language to see, you know, what the elders
Yeah.
are doing. So, so I'm a bit like skeptical of that practice, but I understand the need to bring Western science and technology and medicine and all those studies on psychedelics, combining it with ancient wisdom and or acknowledging
Mm.
that these things really do work. But there is some things that are sacred in a sense,
Mm.
and so I'm a traditionalist in that sense. Um, I think psychedelics are awesome. They're great for managing PTSD and depression and all of that, and hold a lot of potential. But now you have a microdosing coach.
Mhm.
Like, what the fuck is that? You know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and is microdosing even safe long term? We don't know. Like, this was not practiced. Like, it's a pretty modern, emerging thing. We don't know. We have like some preclinical suggestive studies that perhaps, but there's also some concerns.
Mm.
So, but having said this, I think we need to pioneer the future and we need to push the boundaries, but we shouldn't forget the history. We shouldn't misguide people, telling them stuff uh, as facts when it's not,
Mm.
um, or elevating yourself into some kind of authoritative position on your
Mm.
own. And this is another thing about gurus
Mm.
and great teachers. You can never call yourself one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the people you work with
Yeah. Thank
who
you.
will give you
Mm.
that recognition. You can never call yourself like that you are this or that.
Yeah. We especially now in Germany, there's like a lot of gossip going on right now. There are like a guy like 25 years old calling itself in the Instagram bio medicine man and hosting ceremonies. And now behind there comes out that he had sex with other participants in the ceremonies and stuff. And this is happens all the time. And that's really, really good that you bring this topic on because, yeah, there's a lot of fake shamanism. There's a lot of neo shamanism, and the people they call themselves like shaman or like page or something, and don't know that someone needs to live like in the jungle maybe for years to learn from the plants, to learn from the medicines, to learn singing, communicating with the spirits. And that's also why I never would host at this point like ayahuasca ceremonies. Yeah, did like 10 years. Yeah, I worked with ayahuasca with the Shipipo tribe, with the Yawanawa, but I never would like, come to me and I host a ceremony.
Yeah. Like I'm basically the same when it comes to like respect to these things.
Mm.
And I have a friend who got adverse reaction from ayahuasca, basically persistent hallucinations and uh, like this disorder that is quite rare, but it can happen. And he's a smart guy. He's not like an unstable person. I also know of one very, very prominent figure in podcasting scene and global influencer scene who had to take a year off after one peyote ceremony,
Mm.
which went wrong.
Mm.
And he was basically connoisseur of all kinds of psychedelics
Yeah, I
and
think I know
like a
what you mean.
top
Yeah.
expert. So, and when this my friend started sharing what happened to him and he started organizing meetups, hundreds of people showed up who have been damaged by these
Me too.
medicines,
Mm.
who,
Okay.
who didn't really know what they're doing or did it with wrong people or people who didn't know what to do once you get into these kind of persistent issues. So my problem is in that space is this bias towards only positive. It's called medicines. It's medicine, sacraments, healing, like like you're using them to heal and as medicine, but it can turn against you. And if entities are real and you get possessed with stuff, or if we take a more Western approach, that there's like a neurological damage, maybe, I mean, it's very well known, like with some psychedelics, you can get glutamate neurotoxicity, like too much excitatory
Mhm.
activity. And this excitatory activity, like this damage, can take quite a long time to heal. And you can protect yourself from these, and dosing correctly is of course one thing, but there's a lot of other practices that go into it. And so unfortunately there's a lot of casualties out there from inexperienced practitioners, which I believe will result in the same what happened in the 60s. So first there is like a renaissance of
Mm.
summer of love, and everyone is super excited, everyone is dropping acid and having fun, and free sex and tantra, whatever it was then. um, Neo Tantra was actually a Western invention,
Mm.
um, just like chakras with colors.
Yeah.
Like original
Yeah,
Vedic
I know
text,
that.
original Vedic texts don't have colors on chakras. It
Yeah.
was the rainbow culture that put them in. But anyway, that's a side story. So from that openness came backslash from the government. Just like in Thailand right now, I mean, weed has been a little bit too, I would say, uncontrolled, so that every grandma, every hotel, every restaurant sells joints.
Yeah.
And I support, I'm a liberal approaches, that I should be able to choose what I do with my neurochemistry. No one
Mhm.
else should control that. Um, but it should be done in a educative and responsible manner. Like with, for example, cannabis, I'm concerned about the potential for uh, atrophy, neural atrophy, when you are young.
Mhm.
Uh, the interference with learning, ability to store long-term memories, if you are a daily habitual user. Um, it 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 interestingly reverses when you are older. So in your like 60s, 70s, uh, like using THC seems to improve cognitive performance, seems
Mm.
to protect from cognitive decline.
Mm.
But when you are young, it has similar effects on the brain, like PTSD.
Yeah, I heard some of
Imagine.
that. Yeah.
So, uh, what's his name? Like his last name is Amen. He's like a neuroscientist. He has been scanning people's brains, like thousands of Bruce Amen, maybe. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
Don't
like
mind.
he's one of those top guys who have actually clinically looked at thousands of brains, and he doesn't like what he sees on people who are habitual users of cannabis
Mm.
as young people. So, um, like even though I see the potential as medicine, I see there is a lot of different compounds in that plant. Like CBD is probably the best thing there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having said that, and CBN seems to be the one that protects from neural inflammation. Unfortunately, no one has created like a strain that would maximize CBN in it, so that you would actually protect your brain from like THC's adverse side effects. So basically, there is no free lunch. Like there's just like you can die from drinking too much water.
Mm-hmm.
Like there needs to be a respectful approach to these things. And I mean, I'm not a saint. Like I've had my own addictions and habits and like all kinds of stuff. And life is a long journey of dealing with different coping mechanisms in a sense. But uh, at least I have awareness
Mm.
that things that people think is medicine might not be,
Mm.
long term,
Yeah.
if that becomes the single solution. I'll tell you one thing about. I think this guy actually originates from Germany, but he was a habitual. He was a practitioner of Campo.
Mhm.
Campo is like this venom, like that stimulates the immune system that is administered on wounds. That I mean, you burn like these
Mm.
spots and you administer it there, and it's supposedly a very strong immune system tonic. Like he was a very well known authoritative figure in administering this medicine to people. Western guy, like he had like 4 or 5 years of experience with it. Uh, he had Parkinson's,
Mhm.
and he had great results of using Campo for his reducing his symptoms. So he had this innate belief that Campo will heal everything, including Parkinson's. So what happened with his practice? His use of Campo became daily, to the point where he was using it 3 times a day.
He's also practicing here on the island.
I don't know if he was here, but like,
Okay,
but he
but he's still alive.
he's dead now.
Okay.
Let me finish the story on
Sorry.
that one. so so but he got this bias where he believed no Western medicine can help him, that
Mhm.
only Campo can help him, and he started like once he's basically his symptoms became worse because Parkinson tends to progress. So he had to take more and more Campo, and he had this like feeling that it's helping, and he had to take more and more, and he had this like fixated belief that it will heal him. And simultaneously, he was also using ayahuasca very often. So he believed in plant medicines as the ultimate cure. And lo and behold, one day he changed his name on Facebook to Archangel Michael,
I think I know the guy.
and he started like posting like all kinds of grandiose delusional things, how entities are trying to get him. He actually believed that his Parkinson's is of an entity source, and in the end he I mean, some people were a bit worried, and but you can get a person like that at that state to therapy, like if they
Mm.
don't want to. So he made he to my secondhand understanding, he he created like a ritual, made a pentagram in his home, uh, and then he jumped from the balcony because he believed that if he flies with Archangel Michael, he will be free. That was the end of him. So very knowledgeable, authoritative figure, very easy to believe. You listen to podcast, you believe everything he
And now
says.
the funny thing, I made like 200 podcasts, and I made a podcast with this guy.
Oh, you
But
met him.
yeah, I met him. Yeah, I made a podcast with this guy. But this is the only podcast which is never launched because he doesn't want it to launch because he was like insecure and stuff. And then like few weeks later, when it's the same guy, yeah. But
Yeah.
it seems like a really unique story. Yeah,
Yeah, but I just want to share this because
yeah,
it's a
important.
good example of like how your belief systems, if you become a fundamentalist, it can go so wrong if you have a really strong blind spot.
Mm.
And that's why Einstein described it best. Einstein said that what intelligence and wisdom is to be something in these lines, is the ability to hold uh, a, a hypothesis and antithesis simultaneously in your mind. So you basically create a completely spotless, like perfect theory of something
Mm.
that you believe in, and then you create the antithesis of it. You create a completely contradictory theory, which is completely spotless, that enables you to argument against yourself and to be able to hold both theories in your mind simultaneously.
Mm.
That is intelligence. That is wisdom. Unfortunately, it's much easier to just believe in one truth and this is my path, have one single solution, and nothing will shake your worldview, your belief system. But true intelligence is to be able to see your own blind spots. And I mean, that was Einstein's perspective. And I guess that's how he was able to create a new physical theory, because he was a master of the existing ones, a thesis, and then he created the antithesis. So what if it's not, as it seems? So he used a lot of imagination techniques to see another perspective to things, and like I think that's often what is needed in this space where people get so high on their own supply.
Mhm. Yeah. And you also, like you said, you're an educator and you make this big bio conference over a decade now. And but you also like take people from the native people, from the Amazon rainforest, from other kinds of spiritual communities. So what's your approach to the medicine? So how you want to, let's say, use them to make like a better awareness for it? Because I never attend your biohacking conference, not yet, hopefully in the future, but I would interested in hearing
Yeah,
that.
so um, maybe what I just described is a good segue why I might include spirituality or very nature oriented or holistic people in the same event with scientists and technologists, is that what science and technology has been is slightly separate from holistic, grounded, nature oriented, um, metaphysical concepts, even spirituality. So those have been separated in the Western world without acknowledging that a lot of science and technology comes from nature.
Mhm.
Uh, Anesthesia comes from indigenous people's hunting practices and arrow poisons, as an example. Heart, cardiovascular medicines come from plants. Um, so many things uh, um, have first been discovered in nature, isolated, modified. You have a patented compound. So the source is nature. A lot of these major breakthroughs, take antibiotics, come from bacteria, fungus, so defense mechanisms of other organisms. It comes from careful observation of nature and its innate intelligence and or native uses. So maybe it's because I spent time in the Amazon and I saw that they were able to do seemingly impossible things, that they know something that we don't. And going through experiences where I witnessed that firsthand, that Western man's medicine is not the best for everything. There are some things that I would consider they know what they're doing, for sure, a lot of things,
Mhm.
but some things, especially if something is more of a psychic source
Yeah.
as an issue, um, because what they do in the Amazon, I think, is like they really try to get to the root cause. They didn't have microscopes, so they don't know about bacteria or viruses necessarily,
Mhm.
but they describe those as entities. They didn't know about the immune system, but they would describe, that something created a state where these bad entities or energies were able to enter you. So, like, if you really look at it, they had understanding, but their wording was different.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe also like more intuitive wisdom, like we have in the
yeah,
Western world.
and we have. I mean, if you look at any other practice, you look at Ayurveda. There's these body types. Later on, researchers have like mapped and linked body types to genetic differences. That if you have a FTO gene and you're more likely to get fat, like, there's then the association to specific body type, or are you pitta kappa, whatever.
Mhm.
So these are abstractions coming from a different system. If you look at like a lot of the things that we put in our coffee comes from Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine traditions. I wouldn't put maybe shark fins in my coffee. I do put testicles, but medicinal mushrooms. Reishi is one of the most, or ling tea in Chinese, it's one of the most valued tonic herbs in Chinese medicine system. And now we know from hundreds of research articles that it's a very potent and has a lot of potential for uh, developing maybe new medicines as well. So for immune system and all that. Um, so I do recognize the blind spot of Western science and medicine in that sense, and I want to bring nature and technology and science closer together. That's why in 10 years now, the 10th anniversary Biohacker Summit, the topic is, we always have a topic. The topic now is unifying um, technology, science, and nature. And that's why I bring the people who represent nature, like herbalists or medicine men, and then I bring scientists and technologists. And I believe it's a very fruitful conversation. But for me, also the whole summit is like a festival. It's like a celebration. It's like it's an art piece also. So our events, the production values are on a completely different level than a typical trade show. We have an exhibition, we have talks, we have workshops, but the way it's all constructed is a very festival feel with a lot of focus on technical and artistic production. Um, because I believe like people don't necessarily even remember exactly everything what was said, who spoke about what, but they remember how they felt,
Mhm.
and that community feeling is key. So one thing I've noticed over a decade in this is that people are pretty lonely. You
Mm.
know, they with their weird mushroom coffees, you have little friends who understand you,
Mm.
unless they also studied those things themselves and are interested or listen to the same podcasts. So we have, in a decade, we have seen a lot of people who come there and they feel like, they have no people who think alike in their small town or wherever, in their circle of friends. In their circle of friends, they're usually freaks. But somehow when they come there, they feel like at home. They feel like they can be themselves. And like Terence McKenna, the psychedelic mind that popularized use of psychedelics from especially in the 80s, one of his quotes is "find the others." He referred to people interested in psychedelics, but
Mhm.
um, or people who are recognizing the limitations of our culture, because that was also one of his tenets. So to me, finding the others is key, that you surround yourself with people who are interested in similar things. And for that reason, I actually did develop, um, I noticed the blind spot in the whole health space with all the one way podcast, one way Instagram accounts, one way this and that, that you have followers, YouTubers and all that. It's a very one way
Mm.
communication. So I created this platform called Holo Habits. It's a free app you can download from uh, App Store, Android, Play Store as well.
Mm.
And it has these lifestyle challenges. It has uh, biomarkers, so you can do like a nutritional test, longevity test. You get your biomarkers on the platform. Based on that, we identify our health span bottlenecks. So we tell exactly what you should focus on, what might be the 20% that results in 80% improvement. And then we tell you what lifestyle or dietary changes might be
Love that.
associated with that. And then you get on a journey of doing that. For example, let's say you have nervous system regulation challenges or high cortisol,
Mm.
we might recommend you to do an ice bath. And then for any habit, you need to do it repeatedly, at least from research 4 to 8 weeks for a habit to become for something new that you do to become a habit.
Mhm.
So, but I recognized. the need for a communal experience. So you're doing it with others.
Mm.
When you do an ice bath, you take a selfie or whatever,
Yeah.
you share with others your practice. And through sharing your practice with others, you learn from others, and you connect with like-minded people. And like you can be alone in your hometown, but like you suddenly feel surrounded by these people like you, instead of just following Wim Hof, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like a new kind of social media. Maybe it's also an interesting topic. Maybe we can dive in another time. But you said you're like one of the first users also for social media. And I deleted social media completely like 2 or 3 months ago. Like no Instagram account, no LinkedIn, and Facebook because I didn't felt it anymore. And I think we need to we need to have something new, and this is like something I can imagine, like to see like-minded people to share interesting stuff and not like be so narcissistic and one way, like you said.
Yeah, it's a health lifestyle
Yeah.
social media pretty
Mm,
much. And
love that.
I just saw that there was no place like that
Mm,
that would integrate that. So and basically it is led by influencers or people who know what they are doing. So there's each challenge is hosted by an expert, but the expert is not the central stage. Like it's
okay, yeah.
the community. So like that's the difference. Um, yeah, like people come to places like Kopankan where they can have these things every day with different practitioners. It's great. I mean, I value like that there are places like this, and Bali and Tulum and
Mm,
whatnot. Um, but what I don't like is this like that you need to like find the real stuff, the needle in the haystack, so to say, or um, like filter out all the charlatans
mm. Yeah.
and people who pretend to be enlightened. Oh,
Mm,
there's so many of those people on this island who claim I'm so connected to my higher self now. Like
mm.
I'm healed. Like I used to have trauma, but now I'm healed. Like no, you're not. Like it's coming back to you
Yeah.
like
You don't need to talk
repeatedly.
about it when it's like that, no?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
the one evidence of healing is that you don't even remember what happened to you in a
Hmm.
sense. Like you don't. It's so faint memory.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, so but I value that people work on themselves, and there's all these frameworks and tools and experimentations like a melting pot for and like here you can be anything. You can dress up the way you like you can you can have very weird interests, and you probably find other people who also have that. Um, but I think technology is the ultimate mediator of that.
Mm.
But technology can create these echo chambers, which breeds, especially with attention economy, these characters who get a lot of following being by being like super freaking extreme in one thing. And I see the dark side in that. And I congratulate you of deleting social media. It's good to have a detox occasionally.
Mm.
It can like you're not just what you eat, but you're also what media you consume.
Mm.
Subconsciously, it will program you, and the algorithms, they're not smart enough to be in your interest and favor. They think they try to feed you stuff you want to pay attention to,
Yeah.
um, but it is you have to be much more intelligent uh,
Mm.
and more self-aware when you engage yourself on those platforms. Like, what do you want to be influenced by,
Mm.
in a sense? And yeah, that kind of digital detox is certainly beneficial.
Okay, thank you for that. And yeah, I think we're coming slowly to end of this wonderful conversation. And I know you are like a big person when we talk about what's happening in the future. What will happen in the future? Maybe like in 10 years or in 20 years. And maybe I want to close with some future-based thoughts. Maybe also for where we're heading right now with all this intention game, with all the social media game, but also with health. And maybe you can also give us a little bit of an insight what your new book is about in this topic.
Yeah, that was a lot. But like, if I like start from the future, Dennis Gabor said that future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. It means that you already see the signs of the future. There's already stuff out there that will become more mainstream, often in the fringes happening. So, like in these early adopter communities, you kind of see the future already, like what the potential is there. So, when it comes to preventive medicine, that's not mainstream right now. It's not routinely practiced, other than checking your prostate,
Mm.
occasionally, or doing full blood work every 10 years. Um, as general health checkup. Like most stuff that is in mainstream is 10, 20 years old or more. So we already see like what is potentially behind the corner. And I've been speaking about artificial intelligence for 10 years because I would describe like one of my expertise is looking like our relationship to technology, men and machines. That's kind of like my ongoing long-term interest. And now people see what I've been speaking already like 10 years, in a way, like becoming a reality in their lives. And where is this leading to in health is that technology, AI, algorithms, technology at its best, is like a microscope or telescope as a scientific invention. It it helps humanity to see things that we don't have direct access with our senses. A
Mm.
microscope helps you to see on a molecular level. A telescope, uh, studying celestial objects, helps us to understand what's going on this planet. AI enables us to see complex information with neural networks and dissect massive amounts of data in a way that the human brain is not capable of. Um, and what it means with health data is that healthcare has been very reductionist, focusing on single molecules, single solutions to complex problems. Um, with AI, we'll be able to take a more messy approach, see it as the complexity what it is. Um, I mean, there's already precision medicines and all of that being developed that
Mm.
are uniquely, individually tailored and customized. But basically, this becomes something where we don't just take a snapshot of you when you get sick, like once in, you know, when you get sick or once in 5 years, once in 10 years, but you can have continuous data that is analyzed in real time based on predictive algorithms, tapping into your lifestyle and daily practices and diets and all of that to recommend you or give you um, options of the future, because the future is like it's not one future, there's multiple futures for you that originate from your decisions that you make right now. So like we can go, this kind of technology can guide you like, hey, if you make slightly different choices, like this is the probabilities that you are influencing.
Mm.
um, Another thing is that it's faster to identify very specific things before it's too late. So you can take action 10, 20, 30 years before symptoms manifest,
Mm.
because often when symptoms manifest, it's already too late.
Yeah.
So um, it's like predictive maintenance in automobiles. You don't need to wait for the car to break down on the road. You already know that you need to now take it to maintenance to avoid a potential breakdown. So this predictive ability to see what's going on in the biological machinery will extend our health spans, health years in your life. Will it extend lifespan that we can actually go beyond 120, which is kind of seems to be like one of the tipping points
Mm.
of human health lifespan? Potentially yes, but we don't have the exact proof yet. Like anyone who claims I'm going to live 150 or 180 is delusional based on latest science.
Mm.
But I appreciate that um, wishful thinking, because I think I think it's a high probability for that to become true by combining understanding of complex reality and nature with an holistic approach to very specific precision technologies and interventions. Um, And technology, AI is the key to this. So if I can feed a neural network with all the different perspectives to your hologram, that, I mean, if you think of yourself as a holographic entity that has like different layers and perspectives through which you can observe yourself, uh, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. If we can feed a system with these data points, it can probably be like God
Mm.
that can tell you how to live your life.
Hmm. But it's also a potential there for misuse, no?
Yeah, for sure. Um, AI researchers are very, the more they know, the more concerned they are.
Okay.
So there was a survey on these AI researchers, and they didn't give like there's a couple of things coming from there. First is like they see singularities is closer than we thought it was just 5 years ago. So things will happen faster than we predicted. The other thing is that they they kind of agree uh, that there is somewhere between 20 to 40% likelihood humanity will not be able to deal with this kind of powerful technology, that it will actually cause serious issues. Of course, an obvious thing might be like engineering a virus, or
Mm.
like, or even technology to become self-aware is, of course, like this Terminator scenario, and considering that humanity is like is a loose cannon on this planet. But I'm not a technological pessimist. I'm an optimist, so I believe there's more potential for positive things than negative outcomes. So I'm not a doomsayer.
Mm.
Uh, that's not what I'm saying. Uh, but it will highlight the weaknesses in our systems, including the AI technologies that we are developing. And if we are lucky, we will be able to contain that technology so that it doesn't kill us. Just like we hopefully,
Mm.
we don't know yet, but at least for a while now, we have been able to avoid like serious nuclear catastrophes. Like nuclear energy, when it was developed, the scientists saw the hope. People working in Los Alamos,
Mm.
they saw only positive things. And then it was used for, what we know what. And then it was not technological intervention. It was a social, cultural, uh, like based on mutual agreements innovation that then helped us to contain it, at least postpone
Mm.
like the catastrophe. AI is the same. Like it's humans create it, humans control it, at least for now. If we want it to serve humanity, we need to come to the cultural and ethical, moral agreements together. Having said that, um, European Union, for example, is now implementing. They have made proposal on rules for AI, and it is limiting very strongly any kind of medical or health related uses.
Mm.
So that is an area that will be highly regulated. So right now, to use AI to take your biomarkers and optimize your health is not regulated. You can do whatever you want, but very soon it might be controlled by governments.
Mm.
So I don't know what to think about that. Is that like, at least as an innovator, I feel like it's hindering potentials.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, maybe that's needed. I don't know, but it's that's like one aspect that I want to say. The other thing is that the pandemic created foundations for people to become more interested in their own health, recognizing the shortcomings of mainstream narratives. Like, I'm someone who is not a fundamentalist. I don't pick any sides, so I see
Mm.
potentials.
Yeah.
But what it created, it woke up people that, ooh, I actually need to take care of myself.
Mm.
Because if you're told 3 years in a row that if you're in a risk group, you have a higher risk of dying.
Mm.
And the thing is that it's not only about this specific pathogen, but with everything, you're in a risk group if you're in a risk group, you know? So taking care of yourself is your own personal responsibility, physically and mentally. No one else is going to do it for you. No one's going to fix
Yeah.
you. Like you have a higher risk of all kinds of adverse events if
Mm.
you don't have a good balance and stability in your biological organism. So to me, this will create a decade of innovation in this area. So this is why we see so much happening now in the longevity field, because money for a few years went into healthcare companies. From healthcare companies, it went into funds that are now investing in this space.
Mm.
So health tech innovation has been fueled. So as much as we want to criticize big pharma, um, it is the fact that this happened. It led to the opening of floodgates of resources and money and
Mm.
investments to go into this space that is so important for all of us. Like, where's the money coming to all these companies?
Yeah.
Is from investors.
Mm.
And where did that come from? From insurance companies, healthcare companies, investors who made their money with that boom.
Mm.
The other area is technology. So
Mhm.
technology companies, AI companies have created with this digital oil, uh, in 1 decade, a shift from fossil fuels and traditional companies. If you look at stock market, it used to be, PetroChina and Shell and all that. Now they're all dropped out. It's all digital oil companies, Meta and
Mm.
Facebook and all of that, Tesla, whatnot. Like digital and technology companies, AI companies are the ones that are creating the wealth, and that money coming from as a collateral is what is now being funneled into new innovations and technologies that
Mm.
then ultimately will help all of us uh, to go to the future and solve the problems that humanity is facing. So
Yeah. It's a
yeah,
good
that's the
side.
dynamic I see, and so I believe like we are entering a golden era of preventive healthcare.
Nice. Wow. Okay. And so it's also important when you say about all the technological stuff is coming up now, and the development is also really important of ourselves. And this is like the big learning of the talk with you. Like we need to find ownership for our health, and we need to find ownership for our mental health as well,
Yeah,
and take responsibility not just for ourselves, but also like for our communities, for our families, for yeah, for our friends.
for sure. And it's important to have professionals who know more than others, who are teaching others.
Yeah.
And even though we criticized all the coaches, and there's definitely a lot of uh, negative aspects to the increased interest in becoming a coach for others. Um, this was necessary for a lot of people
Mm.
because in the last few years they if they couldn't go to the gym or whatever, like they had to do something, so they created online practices. So
Mm.
there's so many people with courses, coaching, Zoom calls, Discord servers, you name it,
Mm-hmm.
as a consequence of the fact that we went through a period where that was the only like reasonable way to sustain yourself. And that's why we have, Kopankan booming with all kinds of coaching
Mm.
businesses and experts and podcasters. Like I started one of the first podcasts in Finland,
Mm.
back in the days in the health space, and now there's like thousands. So
It's so easy to start one as well.
yeah, so everyone wants
Yeah.
to be Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Very few will become,
Yeah.
but this increases the dissemination of information
Mm.
and learning and education. Although social media, social technology, and mass media is making us dumb
Mm.
and idiots, it's consumer mania that is not high culture, not very intellectual stuff. Most of it is just memes and viral stuff. But having said that, there's a lot of people who actually will discover through this technology like some knowledge that is more recent than the outdated narrative
Mm.
that we are in. So like, and that is, I think, is the positive side of it. And just as AI is unregulated and coaching industry is unregulated, I see potential in all of them for shifting us towards a better world. And it used to be that if, to practice medicine, being a doctor, like every family had like a family doctor. Now you go to hospitals, you go to institutions.
Mm.
In education, it used to be behind every great composer or artist, there was a master.
Mm.
So the question was not which institution you went to, but who was your master, who was your teacher.
Mm.
You know, um, now it's been diluted that we only ask like, did you go to Harvard? Princeton, where did you go? Like we don't even ask who was your teacher.
Mm.
Um, but if I think of my own life, I've had mentors that have influenced a lot of my thinking
Mm.
and path, and I value that even more with specific individuals. Some of them from educational institutions.
Mm.
Some individuals have influenced me more than my education. So, or my personal interests, even like it's valuable. And this is another thing that Einstein said: we are standing on the shoulders of giants,
Mm.
and we have to recognize that some people who came before us they know better.
Mm.
Um, and that's like as much as we want to be biased towards criticizing existing systems, the whole preventive healthcare industry is relying on biomedical testing and traditional healthcare providers to do the testing and to be precise enough. Um, the manufacturing practices coming from innovations in manufacturing medicines is what is behind the whole supplement industry to have safe um, uh, and proven whatever extracts,
Mm.
encapsulation techniques, whatever. So like we have to understand that these are not like isolated things and against each other. Just like science and technology is not against nature and spirituality, but they can be coexisting in in a unified manner that is beneficial for all of us for our elevated understanding and consciousness.
Mm.
So, but humans are so very much incapable sometimes of approaching complex topics and issues with complexity. So we want simple answers, and that's what creates cults. That's what
Mhm.
creates charlatans and fake gurus and like all
Mm.
of that. Um, and this is what I want to fight
Mm.
personally.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Narrow-mindedness. Yeah.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for your mission and for all that you do for the community and also for for the healthcare. And I'm looking forward to the book you will publish in the future. And maybe I can invite you for another podcast when it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. If people want to learn more, Biohacker Center, biohackercenter.com is a hub for a lot of things. You can also go to Biohacker Summit.
Mm-hmm.
You can uh, follow Biohacker Summit on Instagram or biohacker.center or me, Teemu Arina. And also, if you want to check the new book, it's called The Resilient Being. And yeah, that's going to be out next year. And it's been a decade now in the works. So since we finished the last manuscript around, yeah, it was about 2015. So yeah, it's almost 10 years. So
Mm.
like it's quite a lot of work that has gone into the new one. So yeah, check it out.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Or how you say
Appreciate it.
in Thailand, Kap Kong Kap. And yeah,
Kiitos
hope to
in
see you
Finnish.
soon. Hope I can attend in the future at one of your conferences. Would really love to see it because what I saw in the internet and in social media looks amazing. Like you're really connecting the natural world with the biohacking world, and this is also like our topic since yeah almost also 7 or 8 years. So to bring natural and biohacking together. So thank you really much for your work.
Appreciate it. All right. Thank you.